what caught my attention the first time I ever saw Liquid Death was I was sitting in a meeting with a contractor. It was super interesting. Like, I'm looking at this guy having this serious conversation about these plans, what the budget's going to be, and he's drinking, like, to me, it looks like a beer. And I just stopped and I was like, hey, Steve, are you drinking a beer right now? And he was like, no, man, it's water. Trust me, I wouldn't do that with you coming here. No Free Lunch is presented by T. Rowe Price. The information provided on this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified financial and or legal professionals before making any legal or financial decisions or investments. Hey everybody, Ndamukong Suh here, and welcome to No Free Lunch. From water to whiskey, athletes and high-profile people have dipped their toe in consumer products, but very few do it well. For every Casamigos and vitamin water, there are tons of other brands that fail. When it comes to consumer products, brands build businesses. And nobody knows that more than our guest, Mike Cessario. As CEO of Liquid Death, he's built a billion-dollar company with witty and iconic branding. So how do you build a successful brand from scratch? Well, let's find out right here on No Free Lunch. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to have this guest here. Obviously, he is a massive disruptor in the space of where he sits in one of the fastest growing brands, and the CEO of Liquid Death, Mike Cessario. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I'd love to learn a little bit more about just your early in your career before you obviously became the CEO of Liquid Death, but obviously creating it from that standpoint. But tell us just a little bit more about what you want, what were your passions? I know you were in creative marketing and things of that nature. And so just explain a little bit about how your early career has kind of afforded you to where your success is now.
Yeah, when I was in 7th grade, I got my first guitar.
Okay.
And that was actually the year that the Green Day Dookie album came out, which exploded. Literally everybody owned that album. People's parents, bought that album. But that kind of turned me down the road of like punk rock and that kind of stuff. And then I was playing in bands by 8th grade and through high school. That was kind of my thing, was playing in bands. And I was kind of the guy in the band that was doing all the show flyers and silk screening the t-shirts and kind of trying to figure out how to book the show. So that kind of became this little mini business, in a sense, which I think was the early sort of onset of my like entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
And then I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I mean, I kind of thought I just wanted to be a professional musician. Like I wanted to be in a band and tour and do all that stuff. But I was never in a really great band where that was an option. So I ended up just saying, okay, I'm going to go to college for graphic design just because that was something I did every day. And I was like, oh, you can actually make real money doing this. So then kind of went to school for design, ended up switching to advertising specifically in school and studying that. And then started working at a college at like big ad agencies. So doing like commercials and stuff like that, more than like designing stuff. So I had a career in advertising for about a decade before I started Liquid Death. I mean, I think I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, because I remember even in college as I was thinking about it, it was like, well, one day I'm going to start my own agency. Like, so it was like still thinking of marketing as a service, but I'd probably do my own thing at some point. But then after a while in the business, you kind of realize that I use the analogy, when you work in marketing for an agency, you're a services business. People come to you, they pay you, and you have to give them whatever they want.
But it's interesting. So you say that for sure, services business, and I feel like you have to think what they want in their mind versus you actually being able to use your creative juices. So what's the combination between those two of like finding that middle point?
It's like, imagine if there was a restaurant and you had, some amazing Michelin star chef at the restaurant.
For sure.
And you have a client comes in there and says, I will pay you $1 million, but all I want you to do is microwave some frozen lasagna for me.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to do it. Even though you're a chef, you can make great stuff. You're like, you know what? Hey, they want to pay $250,000 or $10 million for a, piece of you got to give it to them.
Yeah.
Like that's the business you're in. You're not there to argue with them. Like you need their money. So I think that's where a lot of agencies are outside of a few great ones like Wyden, like the one I originally worked at called Crispin Porter and Bogusky. They were kind of doing the most interesting, talked about sort of marketing, but they're few and far between the companies that do that and the clients that are willing to do that kind of stuff. So I think I realized, the creative services business was a little bit of a dead end at some point because you're so dependent on the client and not what your actual ability is. And I think that was why I sort of made the switch. Well, I want to create my own product that I can control the marketing for and do it in a way that I think a modern brand should market and brand itself. And then you get the upside of actually selling a lot of a real thing.
I think something that really I'm curious about, like there's so many athletes, there's so many entrepreneurs that especially love liquor brands, especially the tequila space and whatnot. Then obviously water. I'm a big water person, so I'm more of a water snob than anything from that standpoint. In your mind, what do you think is something that makes these companies become immediately successful or immediate failures based on how they're coming out into the world?
Like what kind of companies?
Water brands, liquor brands, all the different concepts that people want to, and these high profile athletes and entrepreneurs that want to become like a Liquid Death CEO like yourself.
It's relatively inexpensive to launch a brand.
Yeah.
And relatively easy.
So why would so I'm gonna stop you there.
Yeah.
You say it's relatively inexpensive and easy to do it. Is that because of this day and age and technology or where we sit, or what makes you say that?
Sure. To launch a brand, to just get it out in the world, right? Because it used to be, back in the day before Amazon, there's like big beer distributors, there's big soda distributors, and typically you could not even get distributed unless they own you. Yeah. So if you were a small brand, you almost had no chance of launching because how would you even get your product to 100,000 stores if you don't have a distributor that goes there every day and keeps it in stock and all that? Sure. Then when Amazon came around, now you've got a national retailer that you don't need a distributor. You can ship to Amazon and then people order it on Amazon and then they get it. And that was how Liquid Death launched. Like we just were on Amazon where, retailers were like, no way we were putting something that says death on it on the shelf. We kind of had to prove it out. So I think you have celebrities, you've got all these people that want to launch these new products because it's relatively easy to launch. I think where it's really difficult and extremely expensive is scaling it. Yeah. Like launching it and doing maybe a couple $1,000,000 or something like that your first year is one thing, but then growing it 100% the next year, and then the next year, and the next year, and the next year, and the next year, and the next year, that's where it gets really complicated, really expensive. You need a certain amount of passion and dedication where maybe a celebrity is being pitched something by their agent. Hey, you should make a hydration brand because you're an athlete. But you got to think about, do you really want to be in the beverage business, which is a very difficult kick in the teeth every day kind of business? You might get burnt out after a couple years or something if that's not your true passion.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say that because I've done plenty of investments and been curious and being in the CPG space. And ultimately, like what I've seen from my experience is that you have to have obviously great marketing and tons of dollars to be able to pour in that particular space and be strategic about it. But also on the flip side, you have to have a quality product that comes alongside that. And when I'm seeing different CEOs, and there's a Vietnamese coffee company that I'm working with now or have done some stuff with from an advisory perspective, and I look at them and I'm like, they're unique and they're in a niche space and they're very much so wanted. And having that success and seeing the Targets of the world, the Alberts of the world, all of them being interested in it, can you handle those that ability to do that? And then also you have the big boys in Costco, like when you get in Costco, like the sell-through is like immediate. Can you keep up with that? So have you had some of those challenges, or where do you see strategically, especially when you said I started at Amazon, where it seems like you have much more control getting into the market and you can kind of toggle that back and forth?
Yeah. you have to be really strategic in how you expand and understanding what it really takes to be successful. There's been a lot of CPG companies where the reason they failed was because they went too big too fast, where it's like, hey, whatever it might be, Albertsons wants to take us full national, but you don't have the right infrastructure to support that. You're measured by what they call velocity.
Yeah.
How quick does your item move off the shelf? But if you think about it, when you're a new brand, you only get maybe one facing on the shelf. They're not giving you a whole section, right?
Yeah.
So you get one facing. So that facing might only fit, let's say, 5 cases. But to hit your sales thresholds to stay on the shelf, you need to sell 10 cases a week. So that means you need somebody in every store restocking that at least twice a week.
Yeah.
Where in your distributors that you're in, if let's say you're brand new, you just got into these distributors, they sell like 200 other things. You are so far down the priority list, like they're getting their bonuses selling, Michelob Ultra, Bud Light, like all the big stuff that are billion-dollar brands, all those guys delivering it, they make their bonuses that way. By the time they get down to your small brand, your shelf might be sitting empty for 3-4 days, and you can't hit your velocity threshold, and they only give you maybe 90 days. And if you're not performing, they'll discontinue you off the shelf, and then you almost can't get back in.
Yeah.
So you have to really think about what is required to execute on that level. Do you have enough warm bodies on your team? Do you have enough capital to invest in marketing so that, hey, everyone knows you in Texas and you might do well there, but no one knows you in Pennsylvania. How are you going to move off the shelves there? So I think that is a way that a big thing you have to look at is strategically, how do you expand the right way?
Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit more in the launching process. And if you were to have 3 pillars and cornerstone steps to be able to launch a brand successfully and sustainably, what would those be?
I think it's being in the right product, which...
And how do you determine that?
Right. Yeah. And I've said this before, it's every product that you launch as a new brand, your chances of success are like 0.00. I mean, the odds are already stacked against you.
It's like playing in the NFL. You're like the 1% of the 1%, you're lucky if you get it in.
Right. So you have to look at what competitive advantage do you have over other people? Is that like with your knowledge? Like for me, I'm like, okay, gun to my head, what am I really feel confident I'm better at than most people.
Okay.
Brand, marketing, and specifically funny marketing.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to find a product where there was an outsized weight on marketing and brand determining the winners.
Okay.
So products that are typically commodities like water, like what are the differences between any water on the shelf to most people? Water slob like you might be able to know.
I was going to say, for sure. For the average person, there's not much.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the average person, like of all the money that's being sold in water, this much is the average person, like this much is you, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So really it becomes a brand thing. And, if you did a blind taste test, is anybody picking out Fiji over tap water over Aquafina, whatever? Probably not. Yeah. So it is a brand play, like brands matter. And I think where people can really understand the value of brands easiest, it's hard for people, I think, to understand it in CPG or food and beverage, but they do understand it in fashion.
Yeah.
You can understand why Gucci can sell an $800 t-shirt when it's the same functional material as the $15 Target t-shirt.
Yeah.
Brand has value. There's not irrational reasons people will spend it. It's an emotional reason. Hey, I want to communicate something. It makes me feel good. Blah, 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 blah. It has nothing to do with the function of the shirt.
Yeah.
It feels so much softer on my skin. It's not that, right?
Yeah.
So brand does matter. And I felt I could have, an outsized value specifically in water. But I think one good thing to look at typically, and it always varies, is look for something where it's a huge category already.
Okay.
Trying to create a new category, I'm going to create the first, prebiotic mustard water. And, nobody's done that yet.
Yeah.
You have to educate people what that is and get, like, people aren't already buying it, right?
Yeah.
Where if you can go into a huge category like water, for example, everyone's already buying water. You don't have to explain to people how to drink water or what it is. You can then go disrupt it and create attention based on brand or based on other things that you can control.
So it's funny you say on the attention side of things, because what caught my attention the first time I ever saw Liquid Death was I was sitting in a meeting with a contractor, and like we're going through these plans. We're about to build our dream home, which we never ended up doing. But it was super interesting. Like, I'm looking at this guy having this serious conversation about these plans, what the budget's going to be, and he's drinking, like, to me, it looks like a beer. And I just stopped and I was like, hey, Steve, are you drinking a beer right now? And he was like, no, man, it's water. Trust me, I wouldn't do that with you coming here. And I was like, all right, let me see that. And he's like, do you want one? I was like, yeah, let me have one. Because he's like, he knows I'm carrying my canteen typically around. Yeah. So I was like, wow, that's the first time. But that attraction to it, that awareness was something that caught my eyes from that standpoint. But it was definitely an eye-opening experience. And then ever since then, I've seen it just everywhere from that standpoint.
Yeah, I think packaging is something that's really important and often gets underlooked when you're creating a brand. Because typically what happens is you don't have creative marketing people creating brands. You typically have business people, whether they have an MBA or, they're more like numbers people that create brands because they see the opportunity, they understand the logistical aspect of how to build something. So they create a brand or packaging that's like, it's okay. It feels kind of like everything else, a name that's just, it's all right. And, they've got enough know-how to get it to a certain point. And then once you have real money, then you hire the Wyden and Kennedy of the world to make a really cool campaign around this thing and make this thing that's not very interesting all of a sudden really interesting because of the marketing.
Yeah.
But what we did with Liquid Death, knowing that we weren't going to have money to do insane Super Bowl commercials or anything like that for a really long time, we had to bake all the marketing into the package itself.
Okay.
How could it be that, like you said, you just see this can somewhere, you have to be like, what is that?
Yeah.
Pick it up. Because even if you're in a store and you see something on the shelf, or in the early days of Liquid Death, we were one of the first canned waters. Now if you go on the shelf, there's like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
But it used to be, it's like you look at the water section, it's all clear, single-use plastic bottles.
And I was going to ask you, was a can a part of your sustainability effect in looking at things from that perspective? Or was it just you want to differentiate yourself in being a can versus everybody else was in plastic?
It was both, right? It was, hey, because the main thing that we're trying to do at Liquid Death, it's not about water. Like, in fact, like just plain water sales are like less than 20% of our sales now.
Yeah.
It's about, I wanted to create a healthy beverage company, but all the cool, funny, irreverent marketing that's ever been done in the last 30 years, it's all for stuff that's terrible for you. Yeah. It's like, hey, what's the funniest ad campaigns? It's like Snickers, Cheetos, alcohol. Yeah. So the idea was, can we create a healthy beverage company where what's in the can is actually good for you and kind of innocent, but then part of the joke comes in this sarcastically aggressive branding for something that's the most unaggressive thing ever.
Yeah.
So it was all about how do you, people want to share something that they've never seen before, or that there's like what we call attention. Where's two things that are kind of at odds with each other, that all of a sudden makes something interesting. Yeah. So we knew when someone says, are you drinking a beer? No, that's water. What do you mean that's water? Let me see. That doesn't make sense. It's called Liquid Death. Why is it water? Oh, murder your thirst. Oh, death to plastic. Oh, I love this. Like, I've watched people go in a complete 180 when you kind of realize what these two sort of at odds things are. Yeah.
You touched on some different pieces that, like, it's the marketing side of things and obviously the visionary of the business side of stuff. So those sounds like those are 2 of your 3 potential core people that are a part of your team. Are there other core members that you brought on, especially knowing that you weren't going to have the Coca-Cola dollars to be able to start this brand from scratch from that standpoint?
It's really important in the early days that you bring in people that are really good at the stuff you're not good at, and being really honest about truly, like, what are you really great at? Do you have a lot of experience with, better than most other people at?
Yeah.
And then all the other stuff that you wouldn't say that about, you got to find the other people that are. Because I think some brands make the mistake of either one, you bring in people that have too much of the same background, and then you're just arguing on stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or they're so protective of, well, I need to own 98% of this company. I'm not giving up any percentage to anybody else. Well, would you rather own 98% of something worth $100 or 1% of something worth $1 billion?
That's one of the best things I learned from many of my mentors, but one of my close mentors, a guy named Gary Schiffman, is like, would you rather own 20% of $1 billion or 2% of $100 billion? Like, there's a big difference there from that standpoint. So, I mean, and that's key. And I think that's amazing to be able to identify from yourself to say, hey, as I'm growing this brand and I'm the leader of this brand, how do I bring other leaders in here that can not only challenge me, but take other things off of my plate? And I think that's, in the sports world, is very important. I can't be the quarterback. I can't be the defensive lineman. I can't be the offensive lineman. I can't be the linebacker at the same time. I got to be able to have those trust with those guys to be able to say, you're going to do your particular role and I'm going to support you in my role, and how do we come collectively together as a team that all reach that success. So it's interesting that you found that so early on in your career.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that most people, and it probably goes the same in sports and football too, it's everyone who's just starting to get into it thinks it's going to be way easier than it's actually going to be.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm 6'5", 350. I'm going to be a great NFL player. Well, there's so many things.
Until you get hit in the mouth.
Yeah, right. There's so many things you can't anticipate that come throughout that journey at different things. Some things out of your control, some other things you're just not thinking about. Mm-hmm. So when you get into starting a brand, it seems so easy at first, where you're almost like, I could do this. Like, I don't need this guy. I don't need that guy. Like, I'll just get this guy over here.
Yeah.
But the reality is, I mean, it is really, really hard. And I think if you can respect that going into it, hey, this is going to be near impossible. Like, my chances of success are almost nothing. How would you then make decisions if you truly believe that?
Yeah.
I think that's helpful.
So when you were actually building out that team, what did that ultimate group of the initial founders look like?
So initially, when I created Liquid Death, I had to launch it online as if it was a real product before it ever was a real product. Because when I was like, hey, I have this idea, I want to put water in a can, put a skull on it, and call it Liquid Death.
Was it a test case?
Kind of.
Okay.
No investor was going to write me a check for that idea. It sounded dumb. It's never going to work. There's going to be 12 heavy metal guys that think it's cool.
Yeah.
But so I said, okay, I'm going to create a Facebook page.
Yeah.
I worked with a buddy to make a Photoshop render of a can that looked real.
Yeah.
We came up with a funny idea for a internet commercial that I shot for like $1,500. Like, I knew a guy that was a camera guy. My wife's good friend, she was like an actress. She was willing to just kind of be in this for like almost nothing. And we made this really funny ad where the point was like jokingly trying to position water as extreme.
Okay.
Where it was like, water every year is responsible for thousands of deaths. High caffeine energy drinks only kill like what, 1 or 2 kids?
Yeah.
And we made this funny video where she's pouring out this can of water the whole time. And because we didn't have a real product, I literally used a Miller Lite can that we dumped out, filled with water, and she was pouring it so you could only see the top of the can. And she's just pouring out water the whole time while she's talking about how extreme water is. You don't know where it's being poured. And then at the end, you realize she's been waterboarding a guy the whole time with the product.
Oh, wow.
And we put that on Facebook, and 5 months later, the video had 3 million views. The Facebook page had like 70, 80,000 followers, which was more than Aquafina's Facebook page at the time. So then we had hundreds of comments, people asking, where do I get this? Is this a real thing? Hey, I'm a distributor in New York. Can I talk to a salesperson? But it was not real.
Yeah.
But I used that to then go raise the very first round of funding to just produce a minimum run of canned water, because canned water isn't something you can just make in your garage and sell at the farmer's market like you can like a protein bar or something. Yeah. You have to order 250,000 cans minimum.
Yeah, 250,000 cans minimum.
That's minimum order.
Wow.
So, we had to raise about $150K just to do like a minimum run of product. So then once I kind of had the round together where I used all this traction. I had about $150K committed. Then it was like, okay, I need a partner that knows the finance side. So I got my buddy, JR, who I'd known since high school, was kind of like a serial entrepreneur, just doing little stuff, but was always totally self-sustained. Yeah. He could create his own little business, pay himself enough to do it. So he kind of was not tainted by like the corporate luxuries of having huge teams and stuff.
Which I think that's key, especially as a startup. You got to have people that are nimble, that aren't afraid to wear multiple hats versus saying, I only do 100%. This, I can only do this, and if you move me out of this direction, I'm going to short circuit and not be able to help you. And it's like just circling back on like that core team, like from the grassroots of your business, you, your wife, a friend of your wife's, and a buddy that knew how to use a camera, and that's how you guys started. Yeah. Then you had your buddy JR after you got this first round and said, hey, JR, this year I may be able to give you $5,000 for the year. Will you ride with me? And I'm assuming you gave him some equity and things of that nature from that standpoint. And that's how you started to build up your team. So your true team started family, close friends, and then obviously a buddy that is obviously had experience in his space. And then as you started to grow from that standpoint. So what I'm curious to even also add on to that is you raised that $150K. When you were raising that $150K outside of the money, because I always believe it's a saying is like, you can find money anywhere, and you can find dumb money and you can find really good money. So when I'm talking about really good money, were you strategic on who you took that $150,000 from? And was it from one person, or was it from a multitude of people that you saw as additive to your overall business?
Well, in those early rounds, you have a little less choice, right? Yeah. But also in the early round, it was what you call like a friends and family round. I don't come from a wealthy family, so it's not like my family gave me money, but it was like, hey, my old creative director boss at some big ad agency who maybe makes $350K a year, he could spare, here's $5,000. And people that, I focused really on people who understood marketing because they could instantly see the potential of the brand faster than someone who didn't understand marketing. Yeah. So I think in that case, it was good because one, I had relationships with these people and they believed in me just as a marketer. Yeah. And then they also were excited about the idea. So it wasn't like I had to go around to like random strangers that who knows what they're going to be like once you have to, be business married to them. So it was all people I knew, so that was safe. And then as we started raising more money, because, as a beverage company, you're just constantly raising capital. Because the reality is most beverage categories that you launch into, Coke and Pepsi are in them and they set the pricing. Yeah. And they own the world, so they can make great profit margins on, a water priced at whatever it might be, $1.79. But you as a new company with no scale, you're paying the most money for cans, for production, for storing, for everything. You can't make a profit at that price point, but you just can't go out there and say, well, I'm going to sell my water for $8 because that's what I have to charge to make a profit. Yeah. You won't ever sell anything. You have to price it competitively with where the $200 billion people price it, and then basically keep raising till you get enough scale where finally you can actually be profitable at those price points, right? Yeah. So you're just constantly raising capital. And as we've raised capital, throughout the years, we have been lucky that because our brand was so magic and explosive, there was a lot of interest every time we raised. So we were able to be really selective about who we let in. Yeah. Because to your point, it was like, hey, we can find a check anywhere, but like, why? Who really gets what we're doing? Who's going to be a good partner to us? And, and also, what can you add to the brand? Oh, well, I'm connected to the top decision maker here, and I'd be happy to make an intro.
Yeah, and I'm curious to dive in a little bit more into that, because that's something like when I'm looking at investments and different things in different spaces, more specific to CPG, like a check is a check. And ultimately, from the flip side of it, as being a founder and leading this company, what are some of those things that you're looking for that are intrinsic value that you can't get from the money that they're providing?
I saw one of your posts about Warren Buffett,
okay,
where he does where he said, I wish I could tell people coming out of school, if you had a punch card
yep,
and you only get 20
yeah,
things, how would you think about it? So if you think that way, if someone's saying, I want to invest, you're one of hundreds of things they probably looked at. They really want to make a return on you.
yeah,
So if you can understand that, you know that, hey, if we let you in over someone else, it's like you should be excited to drive your investment.
mm-hmm.
Who in your network can help de-risk your investment and help grow the return on your investment? Why wouldn't you want to do that? Why would you just want to invest and just sit there
yeah,
and not do anything if you actually have the connections, you know, to do it? Now, there are examples where someone is truly kind of providing something of clear monetary value for nothing.
mm-hmm.
For instance, like we did a big investment with Live Nation years ago,
Okay.
and they've been a great partner for us.
So you go all the concerts?
yeah, right. And that was part of it. It was like, hey, you know, they wanted to invest in the company. They believed in it. They care about sustainability and death to plastic, all of that. They're a brand that's about entertainment and fun, just like we are. So, you know, they invested, but then also, you know, we gave them some shares on top of that for that very tangible value of, hey, we're going to put you in every, you know, or most music festivals, venues, all of that. Like, you know, there's an easy way to kind of say, okay, well, as a brand, we would never have the marketing budget to pay for that the way Coke or Pepsi would, but we can give you equity. Yeah, especially if you believe in the company. So those are, you know, there's nuance.
What would you say was, if you can share, the biggest concert or thing that Live Nation put you guys in front of that have seen great profits for the company?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was never, you know, to be clear, a profit-based thing. It was about, hey, how do we get what we call cans in hands? You know, and Liquid Death as a product, to your point, because it's so disruptive and just inherently funny as it is, when someone's walking around with a Liquid Death at a festival, there's going to be a minimum 2 or 3 people, strangers, that talk to them.
Yep.
Are you drinking at 9 a.m? Or what is Liquid Death? What is that? Is that some new IP? No, it's water. What do you mean? So for us, not all brands, for us, we could benefit most from those types of deals where you just get your product in people's hands in social in social settings. Yeah. Like there's almost no better marketing for us than that. So we were able to look at, well, hey, look, they're going to put it in Lollapalooza and Austin City Limits and, you know, all these different festivals and venues. And you start to see on social people posting their festival pictures of their outfits or whatever. They're tagging Liquid Death when they're holding it. They're not tagging Coca-Cola when they're drinking a Coke, right? Yeah. They're not tagging, you know, those other brands. They looked at us in a different way. Like we were additive to the experience for them and something that they wanted to push. So that to us, especially in the early days when our brand awareness was really low, I mean, that really helped sort of grow awareness for the brand in a big way. And it was probably, you know, one of the smartest things we ever did.
So let me ask you this question then. If Roger Goodell came to you right now and said, you've got free reign, anything you want from top to bottom of the NFL, I'm the only decision maker that you have to come through. What do you do for him from a marketing? Like you don't have to go through any of the bureaucracy, no legal, none of that. All of that's out the window.
Yeah.
You get to make any decision. He's the one who'll sign off on it. Because I know what you're saying is like, it's very difficult to get through all the chains and the layers, especially from a legal perspective of being able to get things to be forward thinking and change the ways that you've always known the brands. But I think where you keep excitement into a brand is when you're able to do that and you're able to be nimble. And I think of kind of like an incubator. They allow these incubators to come into these legacy brands, whether it's the Dodgers, the Knicks, or whatever it may be, to create fun, exciting ways to look at the new images of the sport, or let alone that brand?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like any brand, you have to first you have to be really honest about reality.
Mm-hmm.
How do people actually think about this?
Yeah.
And at all different levels, right? I think so many brands, they don't want to admit. Like the NFL probably has the major issue that because of the injuries, parents don't want their kids playing football anymore.
Yeah.
So now you're limiting the pool of new people coming in. So, there's a couple ways to look at that. It's like, well, you can try to minimize it, or often what the best thing is, like, just lean into what you can't change. Like, you're never going to make football safe. Or keep it entertaining at the level that it is. It becomes a different thing, and then you don't even know if it's as successful anymore, right?
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people who aren't afraid to put their kids in football. And it's like, yes, you can have some amount of rational, hey, we take as many precautions as we can. There's a lot of other things that happen, but it's like, find what makes it truly exciting to the people who love it and foster that. If you try too much to cater to the people who aren't really going to care either way about it, and then you lose those people, you just start to
be stuck in the middle.
Yeah. And I just a couple weeks ago, I got to go on a podcast of one of my creative idols, Rick Rubin.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, he produced Slayer, Jay-Z, Danzig, like all my favorite music. And one of the great things he said, he's like, almost all great work divides the audience. Like, there's no such thing as something great that everybody loves it.
Yeah.
No, it's like anything great, there's people who think it's the greatest thing ever, and there's people who think it's the worst thing ever. And you kind of have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
Because I think most brands, as you said, kind of end up in this middle zone where no one really loves it, but no one really hates it.
Yeah.
They just kind of don't care. And then it becomes really, really expensive to keep a don't care growing or moving.
Yeah. No, you said something key there, because it's like whenever people ask me, like, will you let your boys play football? And I was like, no, I don't want them to play football. But what's truthfully in my heart is, no, they have to beg me to play the sport. But ultimately, we'll get to a level, if you really want to play, I'm going to now explain to you everything that goes into it. And if you're prepared for that and walking down that path, then let's go.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think you got to. And then I think the other thing I would say about most of these big legacy brands or legacy leagues is, again, get into reality about where people's attention is in the world. Like, if you're trying to bring on younger fans or whatever, like, for instance, Liquid Death, like, we've tried to do other things, like with the NFL specifically, and they're like, we want no part of a brand called Liquid Death, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, if you're trying to get younger people, why would you not be a little bit more in tune with, like, hey, this is
trends.
Yeah, this is what people think is cool now. Like, I mean, you always have to take a calculated risk. Like, it's not like, oh, hey, NFL, you should be doing an OnlyFans partnership, right? No. But it's like, there's always a way to take a little bit of a risk. Something that maybe makes you just a little bit uncomfortable typically means you're probably in some right territory.
Yeah. So I have an interesting question for you, and I'm curious to your answer. But ultimately, what do you think was the biggest price you ever paid for a breakthrough?
Biggest price we ever paid for a breakthrough?
Yeah. You as a company or as an individual?
I mean, it was probably the Live Nation deal. I mean, that was a really big deal. Like, we had never done something, I mean, from doing nothing remotely near that scale to instantly that level of scale and all of that. I mean, that was a big strategic bet for us. And I mean, and it really paid off. But yeah, I mean, that was probably one of the bigger ones we've made. And then very recently, we just ran our first full national Super Bowl commercial this past Super Bowl, which was awesome that the Eagles embarrassed the Chiefs during that thing. But, that was a big deal. And now, granted, we're a little bit bigger. It's not like, oh, it's half our marketing budget or anything like that. Like, we can still stomach it. But again, a really big bet for us that really paid off this year. I mean, when you look at everything that happens after the Super Bowl, or the fact that when retailers are like, hey, we're deciding what goes on our shelf in 2025.
Yeah.
Why should we put you on the shelf? Well, we're running a national Super Bowl commercial. Oh, well, that shows to us you're really making an investment to help move product off our shelves, and that's meaningful to them. They want to know, hey, if we give you all this space, like, what are you doing to kind of help accelerate things?
So I'm going to throw on my investor hat, if you don't mind. What is something that you need right now for your company to grow or continue to grow and take it to the next level?
It's a good question. I mean, we need really great retail execution. I'd put our marketing team up against any marketing team in the world. I don't care what company it is. But now where our focus is like, how do we continue to grow other aspects of the organization to be that world-class level? Like, we have stuff that's good, like in terms of retail execution, managing 300 unique, Anheuser-Busch distributors and how they get the product to the shelves and keeping it in stock. Operations, how do you continue to drive pennies of cost down to keep driving margin in terms of how do you get more full truckloads and have warehouses that are within the right proximity of your manufacturing, and when do you open up a new manufacturing co-packer and where exactly? All of that really complicated stuff. But we have time, right? It's like we're playing the long game. It's like that stuff's going to continue to just keep up leveling. And then once you've got the world-class marketing, now all of a sudden you're getting closer to world-class retail execution and world-class ops and supply chain. That's when all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow, like, we might be $1 billion revenue company at this point, right? It's not about, it's not really possible to get all of those things right out of the gate. It's like you kind of have to start with one. Some companies, they might start with, they are world-class supply chain people to start. Yeah. Like, they have that stuff figured out day one. They don't know the first thing about how to market a brand, right? So you got to kind of just focus.
So last one for you, because I love this quote. It's like jumping off a plane or jumping off a cliff, and you're building a plane on the way down. Right. And you've obviously soared off that cliff, and you've led yourself to a long runway, as you mentioned. But how well built is that plane? And you don't look forward to landing it till when?
Yeah, I mean, we're still building the plane, right? I mean, at the end of the day, Liquid Death, I mean, we're still a small brand in the grand scheme of brands in a grocery store, Like, I mean, these brands sitting next to us on the shelf are doing billions in revenue a year. Yeah. We're nowhere near that yet. So I think that's another thing that a lot of companies get wrong is because to you in our own building, we feel so big, you start acting like you're bigger than you are, and you start making dumb decisions because the game is kind of stacked against you. Mm-hmm. If you start trying to play the same game as the big guys, you will lose that game. Yeah. So I think it's really important to focus on, hey, remember, like, pretend that we've only sold right. Like, because that still is our competitive advantage is we are small. We can make really quick decisions and move quickly, pivot. Hey, we can, one of our early advisors, he was the founder of that, his name's Peter Rahal. He was founder of that brand RX Bar. Yeah. They sold to Kellogg. And I remember one of the things he told me early was like, until you find something that's not working, you're not moving fast enough. It's like you want to keep trying stuff until you start to hit a wall. Oh, okay, that's not a direction we want to go. Okay, now go this way. Because if you're just kind of meandering along, you need to move fast as a new company and really find where you're going.
In other words, don't get comfortable.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
No, well, this is awesome, Mike, man. I really appreciate you joining us. No Free Lunch is very, very appreciative of your time, and obviously it was a great conversation, and look forward to talking to you again.
No, awesome to be here. Thank you.
T. Rowe Price proudly sponsors No Free Lunch. The views expressed in this podcast are those of the podcast participants and do not necessarily reflect those of T. Rowe Price. Their sponsorship supports the platform and does not imply endorsement of specific content or perspectives. Amazing conversation with Mike Cessario. And I would probably say my biggest takeaway from this conversation was branding and marketing is everything when it comes to a business and a successful one at that. And then building an amazing team around that product and that branding. And I think Mike has done an amazing job of changing the mold of people saying, hey, let's go find this amazing product and then we can build the brand around it. He did the reverse. He said, I'm going to go into a space that already exists and I'm going to flip it on its head and make it be creative and exciting and bring people into it, because we all know how to drink water. All right, everybody, that's the show. Like, comment, subscribe to No Free Lunch on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.